You have been told that focus is a question of discipline, that if you simply wanted it badly enough, you would sit down, close the tabs, and work. That is the most expensive lie in modern self-improvement, and you have been paying the invoice for years without ever reading it. Here is the statement that will make a portion of the people watching this leave immediately. Your attention span is not damaged. It is trained. Trained precisely, patiently, thousands of repetitions deep, to do exactly what it does right now. Every time you reached for the phone in the middle of a boring paragraph, you ran a repetition. Every time you opened a second tab at the first flicker of friction, you ran another. You did not lose your focus. You built its opposite with the consistency of an athlete, and nobody told you what you were building. This is behavioral physics, not motivation. Attention moves along the path of least resistance, always, without exception, the way water finds the crack in a wall. Willpower is a weak and short-lived weapon against physics. You never win that fight by pushing harder. You win it by changing the terrain underneath the fight. 7 protocols follow. 6 of them will feel awkward, slow, and mildly ridiculous while you perform them. 1 of them will feel almost insulting in its simplicity, and that one is the load-bearing wall that holds the other 6 upright. I will name it at the end. I will also tell you why almost everyone abandons that particular protocol within the first 3 days, and why abandoning it is the exact moment the matrix closes back over your mind. The first protocol is the deliberate wrong hand. For 1 week, you brush your teeth with the hand you never use. You open doors with it. You hold the fork with it. You stir the coffee with it. It will be clumsy. That clumsiness is the entire point, and the discomfort is the receipt of payment. Here is what is actually happening. Almost everything you do in a day runs on autopilot, on pathways your brain built so it would not have to think. Autopilot is efficient. Autopilot is also where your attention goes to sleep. When you force a familiar movement through an unfamiliar channel, the autopilot cannot execute it. Conscious control has to step forward and take the wheel. You are not making your hand stronger. You are practicing the act of waking up inside a routine. In real life, this looks small and unglamorous. You spill things, you take longer. And somewhere around the 4th or 5th day, you notice that you have started catching yourself in other automatic moments. The hand reaching for the phone, the mouth agreeing to something before the mind arrived. That catch is the muscle. That is what you are actually growing. Say it internally, exactly like this. When the movement fumbles, wrong hand, on purpose, slow down and do it properly. 3 short commands. No frustration, no commentary, no story about how bad you are at this. You are not here to feel graceful. You are here to interrupt a machine. But the wrong hand is only the doorway. The second protocol is where most people discover they have never truly met their own working memory. The second protocol is dual tracking. You take 2 streams of information and you hold both of them alive in your head at the same time. The simplest version costs you nothing. Walk down a street. Count the red cars silently in order and at the same time, keep repeating a short list of items backwards. Or listen to someone speak while silently tracking every 3rd word they say. 2 channels, both open. Neither dropped. This will feel impossible for the first several attempts, and the collapse will be instant. You will lose 1 stream entirely and only realize it seconds later. That collapse is the measurement. That is your working memory showing you its true current size, without flattery. In cognitive psychology, drills of this family are among the very few that have been argued to carry over into general working memory, rather than just making you better at the drill itself. I will be honest with you about the ceiling here. Even in that field, the argument is not settled, and anyone who promises you a rebuilt brain from a training game is selling something. What is not in dispute is simpler and more useful. Holding 2 threads under strain teaches you to notice the exact instant one of them slips. That noticing is the weapon, nothing else. The third protocol is reading upside down, out loud. Turn a page of text so it faces away from you, inverted, and read it aloud at a steady pace. Your eyes will fight it. Your voice will stumble. The words you have recognized instantly since childhood will suddenly need to be decoded letter by letter like a foreign alphabet. What you are doing is forcing your visual system and your language system to work in a combination they were never optimized for. Reading normally is a reflex. Reading inverted is labor. And labor is what builds cognitive flexibility, which is nothing more mysterious than the ability to switch strategies when the first one fails. This one has an unexpected effect in daily life, and it is the reason I keep it in the protocol. People who practice it report that they become slightly harder to fool by text, contracts, comment sections, headlines engineered to make you feel something before you have finished reading them. When you have spent time decoding words slowly instead of swallowing them whole, you stop being the kind of reader that manipulation is designed for. The fourth protocol is the descent. You take one thought, one decision, one reaction, and you ask why 5 times in a row, not 5 separate questions, 5 levels of the same excavation, each one built on the answer before it. I want to be tired at the end of the day. Why? Because I did not sleep enough. Why? Because I stayed on the phone until 2 in the morning. Why? Because I did not want the day to end. Why? Because the day contained nothing that belonged to me. Why? Because I never scheduled a single thing that was mine. Notice where that landed. The surface answer was fatigue. The floor was ownership of your own hours. You will almost never reach the floor in fewer than 5 moves because the first 2 answers are always the polished ones you have prepared for other people. Ask them in exactly this form, out loud or on paper, why is that true and why is that true? Keep the phrasing identical each time. The repetition is what stops you from escaping sideways into a new topic, which is what the mind will try to do the moment the excavation gets close to something real. Here is the honest midpoint of this protocol and the reason any of it matters. Every mechanism I have described so far is a piece of psychological armor, not motivation. Armor, the kind that determines whether the next algorithm, the next headline, the next person who wants something from you gets to reach in and pull a lever inside your head. Armor is not built in a single afternoon, and it is never built alone. Everything on this channel is another plate riveted onto the same suit. If you intend to keep wearing it, stay where it is being assembled. That is all the invitation there is. The 5th protocol is the deliberately boring block. You choose one task. You set a span of 10 to 15 minutes, and you do that single task without switching, without checking, without a second screen, without music engineered to keep you stimulated. If the task is boring, better. Boredom is the resistance, and resistance is the load you are training under. This is the protocol people misunderstand most. So listen carefully. You are not doing this to finish the task. The task is irrelevant. You are doing this to teach your nervous system that the urge to switch can arrive, rise, peak, and pass without being obeyed. Every time you feel the pull and do not move, you take one repetition away from the habit that built your current state. Counterintuitive and true. The narrower you make your focus during practice, the wider your capacity becomes outside of practice. You are not training concentration on the task. You are training tolerance of the discomfort that breaks concentration. Those are completely different mechanisms, and only one of them transfers. There is a trap inside this protocol, and it catches almost everyone. You will start with 60 minutes because you want to prove something. You will fail on day 2. You will conclude that you are broken. You are not broken. You attempted a load you have not earned, which is not ambition. It is a way of quitting that lets you keep your self-image intact. The 6th protocol is the walk without a map. Close your eyes. Choose a route you know well. The path from your door to the shop the corridor from your office to the exit, the street you grew up on. Now walk it mentally, in full detail, without skipping. The order of the turns, what is on the left, the color of the door, the uneven section of pavement, the sound at the crossing. You will discover something uncomfortable within the first 30 seconds. Entire stretches of that route are simply missing, not forgotten, never recorded. You have walked it hundreds of times while your attention was somewhere else entirely, and your brain, receiving no instruction to encode anything, encoded nothing. Spatial memory is one of the oldest systems you own, and it is one of the few that responds visibly to practice within days. But the real yield is not navigation. It is the discovery of exactly how much of your own life passes through you unrecorded. Once you have seen those blank stretches clearly, they become intolerable, and intolerance is a far better motivator than inspiration ever was. The 7th protocol is the one I promised you. 3 seconds of silence before you answer. Every question, every message that demands a reply, every provocation, every request, every opinion offered to you with the expectation that you will immediately have one back. You wait 3 full seconds before the first word leaves your mouth. Even when the answer is already sitting there, formed and ready, especially then. This is the load-bearing wall. Everything else on this list trains a component. This one deploys all of them at once in the only place that matters, which is the moment a real human being is standing in front of you, applying real pressure. What the pause does is straightforward. The fast, reactive part of your mind produces an answer almost instantly. The slower part, the one that weighs consequences and notices manipulation, arrives late. 3 seconds is roughly the gap between them. When you answer inside that gap, you are not speaking. You are being played by whoever set the tempo. When you hold the pause, you disarm the tempo itself, and the person who was counting on your speed has nothing left to work with. And here is why nearly everyone abandons it within 3 days. Silence is socially expensive. 3 seconds of nothing feels enormous when you are the one producing it. You will be convinced you look slow or cold, or that you have failed to understand the question. So you fill the gap, and the moment you fill it, you have handed the pace back to the other side. Understand what that feeling actually is. It is not awkwardness. It is the pressure of a system that requires your speed in order to function. Advertising requires it. Arguments require it. Every person who has ever pushed you into a decision you regretted required it. Your instant reaction is the currency, and every quick answer you produce under pressure is a payment you did not consent to make. Hold the silence and the transaction fails. That is checkmate, and it is delivered without a single raised word. Use these lines when the pause is challenged, and it will be challenged. Give me a moment. I'm thinking about it properly. Or I do not answer things this important quickly. Or simply, I will come back to you on that. Say them at half your normal speed. The slowness is not decoration. The slowness is the shield. 7 protocols, the wrong hand, dual tracking, inverted reading, the 5 descents, the boring block, the mental rote, and the pause that holds all of it together. None of them will make you smarter this week. Every single one of them makes you harder to move, harder to rush, harder to lead by the reflexes you never chose to install. That is the entire objective, and it is worth more than intelligence ever was. Your attention is the only property you own that cannot be replaced once it is spent. Guard the gap between what arrives and what you give back, because everything that wants to own you lives inside that gap. Keep the armor closed, keep the tempo yours, and never let a hand you did not invite anywhere near the strings.